I grew up in a home that was a difficult home. Mom had a psychiatric illness that really caused a lot of pain in my childhood. I became violent and suspicious, and our home went from a peaceful place to a place of violence, and it was rather dangerous for me and my little brother. I found myself repeating a pattern in my life of getting stuck. I've always been a high achieving guy. The only way that I'm lovable is if I'm performing and achieving and accomplishing. I had to take a deep dive back into the wound. Some people will laugh at me. It's not their fault. It was tough for all of us.
This is the Christian Readers Community Podcast.
Roy Wooten is a seasoned leader, author, former counselor, and speaker dedicated to fostering personal transformation, relational health, and spiritual growth. He serves as the executive director of the Crucible Project, a Christian ministry focused on soul work and leadership development. Under his guidance, the Crucible Project has expanded its reach, impacting thousands through retreats, groups, and coaching. Roy has written several books aimed at empowering individuals and couples. Roy holds a Master of Science in Clinical and Counseling Psychology. He and his wife, Deborah, live in San Antonio, Texas. Their shared commitment to faith, family, and community continues to inspire many on their journeys toward personal and spiritual growth.
A quiet whisper in the night so near, stories of faith that draw you here. The words unfold like morning's glow, a place of truth where hearts will grow. A gentle breeze that turns the page, wisdom passed through every age. Come gather around and take your seat, the Christian Reader's Tales complete. Step into the light where hope is found, voices of love with a peaceful sound. The Christian Reader calls to lead a world of grace and harmony. Listen close as the story starts, a journey to uplift your heart. With every word and every line, a sacred space, a holy sign. The echoes rise from words divine, a touch of heaven every time. So join us now and let it be a place of faith eternally. The Christian Reader calls you near, a voice of comfort always clear. Together we'll walk this holy way, through stories that bless each day. Step into the light where hope is found, voices of love with a peaceful sound. The Christian Reader calls to thee, oh, hope is found, voices of love with a peaceful sound. The Christian Reader calls to thee, oh, hope is found, voices of love with a peaceful sound. The Christian Reader calls to thee, a world of grace and harmony.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Christian Readers Community. My name is Faith Ijiga and I'm so excited to be back with another author, and well, this time is a male author and he is a lot of things. As you've heard from his biography, I'll just go on ahead and welcome him officially so that you get to hear his voice. Welcome to the show, Roy Wooten.
Oh, Faith, it's such a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you too. And we're here to talk about your book, Unstuck. But before then, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I grew up in a home that was a difficult home. Mom had a psychiatric illness that really caused a lot of pain in my childhood. And out of that, I I met Jesus at 10 and became a baptized believer shortly thereafter, and was called into ministry, I believe, at the age of 16. And Abilene Christian University to become a pastor, and along the way changed my major to clinical and counseling psychology. I think it was the wounds and the challenges of my childhood that drove me to want to help so many other people. Most of my career has been around helping people change in some form or fashion. So, decades experience in working with couples, particularly couples on the brink of divorce, couples that are near the end of their relationship. We had an emergency room type approach to couples in a mess. We called it a marriage intensive. And my first book, The Secret to Lifetime Love, was written out of a desire to help as many people, as many couples as we could. And I'm thankful that that book has been translated into other languages and lives on out there, both at the regular book sites, but also in PDF versions all over the world, making a difference. And my second was around fatherhood. I had been asked to work with young dads who just found out they were about to be a dad, and these were unplanned pregnancies. Most of these couples weren't committed to each other. And so I wrote a book called Full Throttle into Fatherhood, and a program specifically for them to help them out. And now the last, since 2009, I've been helping men around men's issues, primarily through uh, men's retreats, transformational experiences. And it's out of that I wrote the book Unstuck: 7 Steps to Break Free and Live Courageously. It's just another way um, to help people that I can't get on one of our transformational weekends at the Crucible Project.
Tell us, what was it like for you growing up that finally inspired you to go into this? I know you said your mom had some issues, so could you share some of your experiences with us?
Yeah, so at 5 years old, the nurturing and loving mom that I had always known became violent and suspicious, and our home went from a peaceful place to a place of violence, and it was rather dangerous for me and my little brother. And I had spent the week that she had her first psychotic break really trying to protect my brother, to soothe my mom, and keep dad in the house because he didn't want to be around all of that. And it culminated in the law enforcement being involved and her being taken away to a psychiatric hospital. Many times in my childhood, that happened, that would reoccur again. She'd come back from the hospital, would have a good few years, and then things would get really messy again. And
Mm.
during the times when she was in the hospital, dad was still working. Me and my brother would be cared for by other people in our lives, primarily church people, sometimes relatives, but people who cared about us. And it's from those kinds of wounds that I found myself repeating a pattern in my life of getting stuck, primarily around this message that somehow I wasn't I wasn't really lovable unless I was achieving and performing. My job in the family was to make us look quote unquote normal, and that meant
Mm.
achieving in every way, achieving at school, achieving academically, achieving athletically, and achieving in the Sunday school program at our church. Those things unintentionally sent me a message that I've got to earn my way to love from my family and from others. So I've always been a high achieving guy because of
Mm.
that. And it's not a good place to live out of, right? That
Yeah.
the only way that I'm lovable is if I'm performing and achieving and accomplishing. And so I went through the Crucible Project Transformational Weekend in January 2009, and really took a look at the things that weren't true around that statement from God's word. God tells us that He loves us regardless of what we do. He is pursuing us. He's after us. In fact, blessings. He has blessings following us, chasing us, if I can say it that way. Most of the places that I was stuck in my life had some basis in that early wound around not feeling like I was lovable unless I was achieving. So to really look at each of those unstuck places, I had to take a deep dive back into the wound and to realize both the identity part of it was wrong, but also the things that when we are stuck, the things that we most fear will happen if we take the action to get unstuck. We usually are creating in our stuckness. And the challenge around being unstuck is to face the fear and go anyway. So in a marriage relationship, in a significant relationship, there's some things that aren't going well, but the spouse doesn't ask for the meeting, doesn't have the conversation, doesn't step into courageously asking for or setting boundaries in the marriage or in the relationship that they have, because they fear if they do, it's going to make things worse. So the marriage and them stay stuck, and then staying stuck, they're actually creating the horrible thing that they think might happen in that relationship anyway. What we do instead of the thing that we need to do to get unstuck also becomes a familiar and comfortable thing for us. And in other words, it ends up being something in the soothing, the numbing, the running away, the hiding kind of category that may feel some relief or pleasure for a moment, but it never solves the problem. And because it becomes so familiar and comfortable to us that this is what I do when I get stuck, then it makes it even more difficult for us to take action toward becoming unstuck. And this is true with anything in our life, around our health journey, around our financial goals and plans, around our career, even around writing the first book. I can remember being stuck for about 10 years, knowing the book needed to be written, that we needed to get it out there, but not doing it. I had so much material developed around helping couples that we were using in couples weekends and workshops and marriage intensives. So it wasn't going to be much, but I remember sitting with a coach that I had hired to help me with it, and he said, what do you fear might happen if you put your book out, like you get this out for anyone to find? And I told him that if I put it out there, then I think some people will laugh at me. Some people will think that it's ridiculous, or some people will think that my ideas aren't good. And he said, how many couples retreats did you do this year? I said, 20. He said, how many times did people laugh you out of the room? I said, 0. He said, how many times does somebody come up and say, what you're saying does not make any sense and it's not going to work? I said, 0. He said, so why is it any different if you put it in writing and get it out there? And so the thing that had me stuck was a fear that I had to push through. And I remember when I finished it and I sent it to editors, it scared me to push the button to send. And I remember that first book, whenever it was time to get it to the publisher, and I had big fear that they were going to want to rearrange things or have some things rewritten, and the fear of pushing the send button it was overwhelming, and I pushed it anyway. The thing about getting unstuck is that you will never get unstuck if you don't take the action to get unstuck, the thing that you fear, if you don't step into that. And over and over and over again in scripture, and I would say also in my life, God blesses my action. Thinking about it, talking about it, journaling about it, praying about it is good. But whenever I get into action in moving it forward, that's where I see God blessing it. And so
Wow.
I think that's true with most areas where we feel stuck in our lives.
Yeah, really. And while you were even talking, you said a lot of things that I will definitely be asking you more questions about. But one thing you said that really got to me was, when you said when you wrote your book, you found it difficult to press the the send button to your editor. And I was like, yeah, I guess this many authors can relate. It's a bit shameful, or let me say it's a little embarrassing to send that raw draft to your editor. And like you said, it's not when you think or when you want to do something, but it's actually when you move that you see God's blessings. And this is really wonderful. How long have you been practicing psychology?
Yeah, so I think it was 20. I was 21 whenever I took a job finishing up my master's as an associate clinical psychologist at a psychiatric hospital, and hopped through the hoops there to get my license in the state of Texas. And then, yeah, I've spent my whole career trying to help people change. So mostly programmatic improvements, developing programs, and am very thankful that I get to do what I'm doing today at the Crucible Project, where we are igniting Christ-like change through experiences of radical honesty and grace in 16 locations in the U.S. and in
Wow.
four other countries. We'll have 60 of our transformational retreats this year alone.
Oh, wow, wow. Okay, so as a licensed psychologist, I'd like to ask you this question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we see with the case with your mom, and sorry, I'm bringing that up. What's actually the root cause of situations like that? We might have someone, a husband or a wife, listening to us, and they suddenly can't explain the changes they're seeing, and
Yeah.
they're realizing that it's a bit harmful to stay close to their spouses, and they're asking what caused this, what's the next step to take. So let's start with the root cause.
Yeah. So, I mean, the research says that most severe mental illnesses like bipolar or schizophrenia or some of the biologically driven anxiety disorders, etc., have their basis in genetics. In other words, that there's, you know, genes that give you a propensity toward the mental illness, and then your environmental factors like the challenges, the adverse childhood experiences that you had, and your experiences that may include some type of brain trauma or some other kind of trauma might trigger those things. So, not everybody who has the gene for a bipolar disorder, for instance, is going to get bipolar disorder, but depending on the environment that they're raised in, they're more likely to get it. So, there's really no one to blame around. When somebody has a mental illness, it's not their fault. it's not.
Mm,
It's not the. You can't blame the parents for it. You can't blame
sure.
the spouse for it. Sometimes the brain chemistry gets off temporarily, like, for instance, people who have some addictions to drugs and try some various drugs, they might have a brain that looks like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or some other biologically driven disorder. But then with good health, with good nutrition, with physical exercise, it gets better. But that is rare. Mostly people who have a severe mental illness will need some replacement of some neurotransmitters in their brain, and will need to receive some psychiatric medications to be helpful for probably the rest of their lives. Treated bipolar disorder and treated schizophrenia, the treated anxiety looks like a normal behavior, a normal achievement, and all. And without the help, it can be a life of homelessness and legal problems, you know, dangerous behavior that hurts themselves or others. So I'm an advocate of, if someone has a significant personality change and not sleeping or sleeping all the time, not eating or eating all the time, significant changes, that they need to see a doctor soon and get that checked out. And it may be something of this nature. Drugs can mimic it, and also people who have just experienced a traumatic event in their life can look like some of the severe mental illnesses, but it may just be the post-traumatic stress reaction to whatever they've just gone through. So, I mean, in a nutshell, here's what I want to say: seek help. Right? This isn't something that talk therapy will be helpful for or helpful, but it will not rectify things, you know, on its own. And get to a professional, a medical professional, and with good medical care, people with a mental illness can live enjoyable, productive, and high quality lives.
I'd like you to speak to relatives of, someone who is having issues, like the one your mom had, growing up.
Yeah.
So, yes, you as a child, you were protecting your younger brother while at the same time trying to please your mom and, everything. And growing up, you discovered how that affected you. Unfortunately, not everybody would come to that realization. So, is it better to prevent it ahead of time? And what if these people also get stopped and they're finding it difficult to come out? So, does your book provide, solutions to this situation?
Yes, there's a chapter in there about one of the ways to get unstuck is to get back to the original scene where
It
you
all
got
started. Mm,
the identity message that you're hanging on to. Identity messages, are lies from Satan. God would never say these things. You're not good enough. You don't have what it takes. You're not worthy. You're not valuable. You're broken. You're defective. You don't love. You love poorly, or you don't love. You're unlovable. I mean, there's a lot of them, and we live out of those. We start to look for evidence that they're true in our lives, and they're really for some of the most stubborn things that we're stuck in our life, the most stubborn, persistent things that are troubling for us, for the unwanted behaviors that we do, that whenever we do them, we think, well, that's not me. Why did I do that? I can't believe I did that again. Those things probably will not break free from good behavior management and accountability groups. You're going to have to do the hard work to go look at the woundings in your life to be able to break through. So the book isn't detailed in how to do that. I do address that that's a necessity and that it takes great courage to go back and look at those things. I think about this, the saying is, when a family member has mental illness has the family. And that was certainly true in my
mm,
childhood. When mom was ill and not on her meds and not doing well, it was tough for all of us. And when she was healthy and taking her medications and taking care of herself with having a friend group and eating well and sleeping well, when she was doing well, she was back to her personality, this very nurturing, caring, loving mom. And the drive, the necessity, the drive in me, given from unintended messages from mom and dad around make us look normal, even though mom wasn't saying those things year in and year out, it was already in me. It happened in, whenever I was 5, and it's been there ever since. So she wasn't saying you've got to be the best athlete, you've got to be the best student, you've got to be win all the awards at church. But
mm,
what was given to me by Satan, I believe, at 5 around my identity was driving all that. And so self-care has been a challenge throughout my life. I'm high achieving career wise, high achieving academically, you know, but taking time off has always been a challenge for me. And just being instead of doing has always been a challenge for me. So I've come a long way, especially since I went through the Crucible Project men's retreat and helped me get unstuck. And I did some work around that little wound at the weekend. And then I've continued to do work, and I'm better than I've ever been, but I'm not done yet working on me.
Oh, so it's fair to say you're still a work in progress.
Yes.
I actually believe that we're all a work in progress, It doesn't matter the stage you are in life, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. I actually believe that as long as you're still alive, we're all still a work in progress, because where I am today, I'll definitely not be here in the next 5 years. Yeah, I actually believe that this is the case for our life, and everything we do and everything we find ourselves doing. Yeah. So guys, you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Faith,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. And the truth is, I don't believe God made what happened to me at 5 happen. I don't believe it was God's doing that I was wounded that way back then. I believe that He was with me in it. And what's remarkable, if I hadn't been through that, I probably wouldn't have had as much an impact in helping other people heal from their wounds. It was
Wow.
it was in some ways a gift that's helped drive my life to help other people who may not even be aware that what's driving them are the wounds in their lives.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes. Totally agree. Totally agree. So, and I believe that that's what this book is gonna help, people or your readers to discover, and also work towards, getting free or getting healed from it, right?
Yes, yes, it will
Wow.
begin. It will certainly begin the journey. And there's, I've had testimonials from people who've used the book, and they're with other men or with other women. It's not written specific to men. It's written short for men who don't like to read. So it's to the point, but it's for everyone, and everyone can grab something good for themselves out of it. But getting the testimonies has been a blessing to me, and I don't expect those kinds of things to happen, but they do. Yeah, so it is available where people can purchase it, but we are giving it away at thecrucibleproject.org. If you go visit there and give us your name and email address, we'll send you a PDF version of the book, absolutely free, and we'd love to give it away to your listeners and other authors.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited. Thank you for this one. The link is going to be at the description section. So for anyone who is listening to this, just go to the description section and see the links, and it will take you directly to his website. What did you say is the name again?
Thecrucibleproject.org.
.org. Oh, okay. Just visit and you get a copy of this book for free. But if you also want to buy it, you can get it from Amazon. It's live on Amazon, right?
Correct. Yes. And I
Okay.
believe it's also in Kindle there, and it will,
Oh, on Kindle Unlimited, yeah.
yeah, it will
Okay.
soon also be available in audiobook.
Oh, beautiful. When are we expecting this one?
A friend of mine wants to record it, and so we're waiting for him to get that finished so that we
Oh,
can.
that's okay. That means
Otherwise,
it's gonna
it's
take a
already,
while.
yeah.
So we would have to keep in touch to know when that one would be out. So what about your social media handles? Or would they be able to see everything that they need to know about you when they go to the website, the crucibleproject.org?
Correct. Yes, and a way to get in touch with me. I'm also on on social media. You can hunt me down in one of those channels if I can do something for you.
Okay. What's the name on Facebook, Instagram?
Uh, yeah, Facebook, LinkedIn is where I am
Oh,
primarily.
okay.
The
Okay.
Crucible Project is in multiple channels, and so they're also in Instagram if you want to follow there.
Okay. Roy, thank you so much. I've had a very wonderful conversation with you, and I'm sorry if I asked, some tough questions.
Yeah, I kind of expected it. I listened to some of your podcasts. Faith,
Oh,
what you're doing is very important and good, and I'm thankful that you're doing it. There's a big difference between people who feel called to do something and people who actually go do it, and you've done it. So, great job. I want to encourage you to keep going.
oh, thank you. I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I needed that. Thank you. And to our listeners, I'd say thank you so much for listening again and again. Thank you for always coming back. And I hope I'll see you in our next episode. Thank you everyone for listening to this. If you learned a lot as I did, because I usually say if you enjoyed this episode as I did, but this one I think I learned so much, and I'd like to say that if it was the same for you, go to his website, sign up, and get a free copy of his book Unstuck, the 7 ways to regain and live your life with courage. That's the subtitle, right?
Yes, 7 steps to break free and live courageously.
Yeah, to break free and live courageously. Thank you so much for that correction. All right, everyone. Until I come your way again next time, I'm saying stay safe, stay blessed, and bye bye, everyone.